Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Phoenix and this is the Consumer's Guide to Video Games. Squirrel with a Gun. 2024, DD Creations. Squirrel with a Gun is an open-world action platformer game. Taking control of the titular rodent, this particular squirrel breaks into a secret facility containing classified objects, such as a golden acorn. Enamored, this squirrel eats the golden acorn, but raises the ire of the government agents running the facility. These agents, though, made one fatal mistake. They let the squirrel find a gun. Now armed, our furry protagonist travels the neighborhood, fighting off the government and collecting all the acorns he can. The title here is no false advertisement. You get what you pay for in this cartoony little platformer, and I am all for it. Starting with what this game is, Squirrel with a Gun is a platforming game in the same vein as a Banjo-Kazooie, a Mario 64, a Battle for Bikini Bottom, yada yada, you get the gist of it. You run around collecting things and fighting enemies, which then unlocks other areas for you to explore until you have to fight some bosses. A little warning beforehand before we discuss the nitty-gritty, this game is technically quite short. There are really only 3 stages to the game, and if you focus on just getting the amount of acorns you need to complete the main story, this will probably take no more than a couple hours to get through. This game doesn't reinvent the wheel, and you'll be done in a split second with it, but these guys made themselves a pretty fun wheel. Getting a small little neighborhood to roam around in, the houses and locations you can explore feature pretty challenging and thoughtful puzzles / platforming. As I mentioned earlier, you do also have to fight enemies, and this squirrel is armed to the teeth. Pistols, machine guns, explosives, you name it, he's got it. The squirrel can also drive, allowing the player to traverse the map quickly and maybe perform some drive-by shootings in the process. The puzzles aren't anything mind-bending, but it requires some intuition to complete them, and the platforming requires timing and skill to complete. The combat, while rudimentary, is quite satisfying, and seeing this rodent snap people's necks and riddle them with bullets is quite funny. Related to the point I was making about the game being short, while the main story of this game is short, there are tons of unlockables and challenges in the game, so if you want to 100% this, you will be occupied for quite some time. However, the game does have a tendency to fuck you over. Not gonna lie here, this game is pretty rough around the edges. The movement physics on the character can be rather loosey-goosey, and it can take some getting used to, but once you get adjusted, the platforming isn't affected much by the movement of your character. No, the platforming is primarily affected by the camera. This camera will fuck you over by obstructing your view and making things needlessly hard due to the fact that you can't see what you're moving towards. There is a driving challenge where you have to perform a loop-de-loop, but the camera is positioned behind the ramp you are driving up, so you can't see shit, and you're just guessing as to where the boost arrows are. Another one involves the squirrel riding down a slide, and one of the golden acorns is in it, but you go so fast, and getting that acorn requires a level of inhuman timing I do not have. Honestly, kinda bullshit. Another element that is rough around the edges is the art design. Using Unreal Engine 5, I think these guys did amicably with the resources they had. The animation is quite crude and simple, honestly feeling like stock effects in the engine, but it gets across what it needs to. The environments, though, really feel like they were using default assets in the engine. While the environments and layouts of the levels were at least thought out and not just mashed together incoherently, such as in the game Only Up, there isn't too much detail to what is going on here. Okay, so what I think I'm trying to communicate here is that the character models in the game, they have like a cartoony look to them. They're very charming, but it doesn't negate the fact that they're very like crudely animated. They're really janky, and there's not a lot of dynamic expression to them. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Continue. The music has to be the most inconsistent element to this game. There is no in-between with this score and soundtrack. It's either perfectly fine or total dog shit. This is determined merely by what pieces have vocals in them. The instrumental music is good for what they're going for. The main in-game motif is a jaunty little piano and synth number that gets altered slightly depending on the area of the game you're in. Also, this piece will get stuck in your head. It's still stuck in my head. Like, I played this game months ago, and it's still fucking cycling through my skull. Good God, help me. Anyways, the Cowboy Bars version of this motif is more twangy. House hosting a wedding has more orchestral strings in the arrangement, etc., etc. There are also these rockin' pieces for when you enter combat or are driving, and these are cheesy fun that, again, fits the tone of the game. But the minute we get into the music with vocals and I have to sit down and listen to these lyrics, fucking yikes. The menu music is sort of a parody of a Bond song. What the singer is going on about how we're not prepared for a squirrel with a gun trademark. Like, I get it's a joke, but it really wasn't that funny, even on first listen. But the boss music is absolute fucking trash. It's a metalcore song, and they're singing about persevering through challenges and being small because you're a squirrel. Do you get it? Like, seriously. These are Phil Labonte, All That Remains levels of fucking cringe lyrics. And like, I enjoy The Fall of Ideals. I got a copy of that album on that fucking CD shelf. It's very good. But, good God. But this boss theme, though, this ain't it, Chief. Again, I get it's a joke, but it's really, really obnoxious. So there isn't much of a story to this game, and it's very old school in that respect. The squirrel wants to collect fucking acorns and nuts, and the government won't let him, so he kills the feds that are holding him back. Dangerously based premise, if you ask me. Seriously though, what this game's greatest strength in terms of story is its sense of humor. This game definitely does not take itself seriously at all. This squirrel is getting up to all sorts of cartoony hijinks, and some of the challenges in the game got some big chuckles out of me. The squirrel gets married, he does some pole dancing, cooks some burgers for people by blowing up the barbecue. He deals with a sovereign citizen and generally bothers people and feds alike. Mischief is the name of the game, and you'll be causing lots of it and laughing along the way. These developers, DD Creations, came out here with their second game, and their first pretty major one at that. For what is essentially their debut in the big leagues, I think these guys show lots of promise. Squirrel with a Gun is rudimentary and rough around the edges in terms of its art design and much of its gameplay. Add to that, you'll be done with the main story in one sitting if you get good. But that doesn't mean there isn't value to this game. It's a funny romp with plenty to do in its sandbox, increasing its lifespan and giving gamers a great challenge in 100%ing the game. If you want a cute little time sink, definitely put this game on the list, as it's only like 25 bucks. And I am feeling a 6.5 out of 10 on this one. It's a fun game. Maybe that's a little generous, but it's very fun. Catch you later, guys.